The morning sun cast a golden hue over the quiet streets of Los Angeles. The usual rush had yet to begin, and a small corner cafe, Sunnyside Diner, was just starting to fill with early risers. The scent of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon drifted through the air, blending with the soft chatter of customers flipping through newspapers or scrolling on their phones. At a corner booth, Robert Downey Jr. sat alone, dressed casually in a dark blazer over a simple t-shirt. Sunglasses perched on the bridge of his nose, he sipped his black coffee, enjoying a rare, quiet morning. He was no stranger to the world's eyes being on him, but in places like this, modest, unassuming, he could almost blend in. If this story inspired you, take a moment to reflect on the choices in your own life. And if you enjoyed this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories. A few tables away, a young waitress, Emily, hurriedly balanced a tray of plates. Her uniform, a simple white blouse and black apron, was slightly wrinkled, and her ponytail had a few loose strands escaping. She moved quickly, her smile polite but weary. She had mastered the art of looking cheerful even when exhaustion pressed on her shoulders. Robert watched as she placed a plate in front of an older couple, apologizing softly when she nearly knocked over a glass of water. Her hands trembled slightly. Then something caught his attention. Emily reached into her apron pocket and pulled out her phone, quickly glancing at a notification before shoving it back. Her expression barely changed, but for a split second, there was something behind her eyes, worry, maybe even panic. Robert took another sip of his coffee, but his attention remained on the waitress. Something wasn't right. Robert casually flipped a page of the newspaper in front of him, but his attention wasn't on the headlines. His focus remained on Emily. She moved from table to table, refilling coffee cups, taking orders, and forcing a tired smile whenever a customer spoke to her. But Robert could see through the act. There was something weighing on her, something heavy. Then, the moment came. At the register, Emily pulled out her phone again, her fingers trembling slightly as she scrolled through something. A deep breath. Then, she bit her lip and blinked rapidly, as if trying to keep something at bay. Robert set his cup down. He'd seen that look before, the look of someone trying to hold it together when everything was falling apart. Before she could disappear back into the kitchen, Robert called out, his voice gentle but firm. "Hey, excuse me, what's your name?" Emily hesitated, glancing at him for the first time. Her polite, professional mask instantly snapped back into place. "Oh, I'm Emily. Can I get you anything else?" she asked with a forced smile. Robert tilted his head slightly, studying her. "Yeah," he said, tapping his coffee cup. "Tell me something. Are you okay?" Emily blinked, caught completely off guard. The question wasn't what she expected. For a second, she said nothing. Then, she laughed nervously. "Oh yeah, just a long morning, you know how it is." Robert wasn't convinced. "I do," he admitted. "But I also know when someone's pretending everything's fine when it's not." A flicker of something crossed her face. She gripped her notepad a little tighter. Emily forced another smile. "I should check on my tables," she said quickly, turning to walk away. But Robert wasn't done. "Emily," she stopped. "Just remember, sometimes you don't have to carry everything alone." She nodded, but didn't turn back. Instead, she disappeared into the kitchen, her shoulders a little heavier than before. Robert leaned back in his chair, stirring his now lukewarm coffee. Emily's reaction lingered in his mind. He had seen people wear that same mask before, himself included, once upon a time. Then, a voice broke through the hum of the diner. "Emily, I need you at the register. Now!" The manager's sharp tone cut through the room. Robert looked up just in time to see Emily rush from the kitchen, wiping her hands on her apron. She moved quickly, her face slightly flushed, but her hands shook as she approached the counter. A customer, a middle-aged man in a suit, stood at the register, his expression tight with impatience. "I've been waiting for 10 minutes for my check," the man complained, tossing his receipt on the counter. "Unbelievable service." Emily forced a smile, her fingers fumbling as she punched the buttons on the screen. "I'm so sorry about the wait, sir," she said softly. The man scoffed, shaking his head. "Sorry doesn't get me to my next meeting on time, sweetheart," he muttered under his breath. Robert's jaw tightened. He watched as Emily's fingers visibly trembled while handling the transaction. She avoided eye contact, nodding apologetically, but her hands slipped, and the receipt printer jammed. She inhaled sharply, her breath uneven. "Come on," the man groaned. "Can you do anything right?" Silence. For the first time that morning, Emily froze completely. Something inside her snapped, a shaky breath, a forced swallow. Then, tears. Not full sobs, not loud crying, just silent, defeated tears that she quickly wiped away, trying to pretend they weren't there. Robert put down his coffee cup. He had seen enough. The tension in the diner was palpable. The impatient businessman scoffed, grabbing his receipt and storming toward the door, completely unaware of the damage he had just inflicted. Emily stood frozen at the register, her head slightly bowed as she quickly wiped away a stray tear. She didn't want anyone to see, but Robert saw. He sighed, setting his coffee down and standing up. As he approached the counter, the diner seemed to quiet. "Hey, Emily," Robert said casually, sliding a crispy $100 bill onto the counter. Emily blinked in surprise. I can't take that," she stammered, shaking her head. Robert smirked. "Relax, it's not a tip. Consider it a job application fee." Emily furrowed her brows, clearly confused. "I don't get it." Robert leaned slightly closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I overheard earlier, you've been carrying a lot on your shoulders. And I know how that feels," he admitted. Emily swallowed, gripping the counter slightly. She didn't deny it. "What if I told you," Robert continued, "that I know someone looking for people like you, hardworking, honest, resilient, someone who deserves a shot at something better?" Her lips parted slightly, but no words came. No one had ever said something like that to her before. Robert pulled a sleek black business card from his jacket pocket and slid it across the counter. "That's my team's number," he said. "They run a training program for a hospitality company. Paid training, good benefits. Might be better than this, don't you think?" Emily's breath caught in her throat. She stared at the card like it was a lottery ticket. "Why are you doing this?" she finally whispered. Robert smiled, not the Hollywood smile, not the one for cameras, but a genuine, knowing one. "Because I was you once," he said simply, "and someone gave me a chance when I needed it most." For a long moment, Emily said nothing. Then, she reached out and took the card. And for the first time that morning, she truly smiled. If someone offered you a second chance, would you take it? Or would you be too afraid to believe it? Let us know in the comments, and if you love stories like this, subscribe now, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story just for you.